After almost 7 weeks on strike, we have reached a record-breaking tentative agreement at General Motors. I'm excited to be joined by Vice President Mike Booth and the national negotiators to dig into the details of what we won. We're not going to cover every detail of this agreement, and the details are important. So head to uaw.org/GM2023 to view the highlighter and white book. Read through it, talk to your coworkers, talk to your family, and see what this agreement would mean for you. But I want to start by recognizing that there are some in the corporate offices and the corporate media who are not happy with our strike and the lucrative contracts that we squeezed out of the Big Three. For weeks, we've seen an army of analysts and pundits crying that our union was going too far, that we were demanding too much. They said they weren't sure if we would ever get a deal, and then we got all three. One of the former Big Three executives was so disgusted by the success of our stand-up strike strategy that he called it a gun to the head of the auto companies. That's what they think of auto workers getting their fair share. Through the power of our picket lines and the credible threat of even more strikes to come, we were able to wrench back so much of what these companies have stolen from us over the past few decades. We won back billions in contract gains. We won back our dignity as auto workers. We won back our pride in being UAW. The American public isn't going to be shedding any tears over the Big Three having to share their record profits. The American public overwhelmingly supported our demands and our strike for the simple reason that the working class in this country has been relentlessly attacked over the past 40 years. Workers everywhere are fed up with seeing Wall Street and the billionaire class make a killing while the rest of us get left further and further behind. At the UAW, we know that our fight for a record contract is more than just a fight against the Big Three. It was a bare-knuckle match between the working class and corporate greed. UAW family, we won this round. But if we want to win the next one, and the next one, and the next one after that, then the labor movement has got to get back into fighting shape. We need workers everywhere across this country to organize on the job. We need to organize the unorganized. And we need unions everywhere to rediscover the power of the strike. That's why we proposed an expiration date of April 30th, 2028 in our contract with General Motors. We just fought and struck in ways we have never done before, and we won big. Part of our strength came from all three contracts expiring at once and taking on all three companies at once. But there's a lot more than three companies that we're looking to square up against. We need to organize like we've never organized before. We aren't bashful or quiet about what our plans are. Our goal is to spend the next few years organizing auto workers across this country. The Big Three aren't the only auto companies making record profits. Auto workers at Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen, Hyundai, and Tesla, they deserve record contracts too. And we're going to do everything we can to support them in the fight to win what they deserve. And if we are truly going to turn the tide against corporate greed, then we must fight harder and smarter than we have ever fought before. So we set our contract expiration date so that we can strike on May the 1st, May Day, also known as International Workers' Day. Our hope is that other unions will join us in aligning their contract expiration dates with our own so that we might join together to raise up common demands and strike together.
There's a reason why the Big Three and their allies feel like they just got taken to the cleaners. This contract has wage increases and economic gains like nothing we've ever seen before. The gains in this contract are worth more than 4 times the last contract. We won a 25% wage increase over the life of our agreement. That includes an immediate 11% wage increase at the ratification, and a 3% wage increase in each of the next 3 years, and a 5% wage increase at the final year of the contract. To put that in perspective, the 2019 contract had just 6% in wage gains. The 2015 contract also only had 6%. Altogether, this agreement has more wage increases than all the wage increases from the last 22 years combined. And we didn't just win them for the hourly bargaining unit. We also won the same 25% in wage increases for our salaried bargaining unit. For the first time in our GM history, the UAW family in the salaried bargaining unit will be receiving general wage increases, and they will match the record amount we won for the hourly unit. We also won one of our key bargaining demands that until just recently felt almost impossible. We won back cost of living allowance, or COLA. This will protect and advance our wages moving forward, and we won it for both our hourly and UAW salaried engineers and nurses.
Not only have we raised our wages, but we have dramatically shortened the time it takes to get to top pay. Coming out of the Great Recession, the companies imposed an 8-year progression to top wage on our union. We have just successfully cut that progression down to 3 years. Thousands of GM members will see dramatic increases in their wage rate as a result. By the end of this contract, the starting base wage for GM members will increase by about 70%, from $18.04 an hour to $30.60 an hour with estimated cost of living allowance. The top wage will increase by about 33%, from $32.32 an hour to $42.95 an hour. The wage increases are even more dramatic for our members who have suffered from the tiers that have divided our union. One of our central goals in this round of negotiations was the elimination of tiers. While we didn't win everything, we made enormous strides. At GM, we did more to eliminate wage tiers than at any of the big three. We brought CCA, GMCH, Subsystems, and Brownstown all up to the main rate. Upon ratification, all of those members will be placed on the production pay scale. Some GMCH members will receive an immediate pay increase of up to 89% at ratification. Some of our CCA members will receive an immediate pay increase of up to 79% at ratification. Following the Great Recession, GM spun off some of the work under our national agreement into subsidiary companies such as Subsystems and Brownstown, where they offered UAW members less pay and fewer benefits. For years, our union brought into the lie that there was nothing we could do about it. But the stand-up strike has changed that. At ratification, Subsystems and Brownstown workers will be immediately brought into our national agreement. Many of them will receive immediate wage increases of more than 70%. So when we talk about an 11% general wage increase on ratification, that's just a starting point. This contract will change thousands of lives overnight.
For years, GM has maintained a permanent underclass of temporary workers who kept the company's profits high by keeping wages low. Thanks to the power of our stand-up strike, at ratification, all full-time temporary workers at GM with at least 90 days of employment will be converted to seniority employees. Moving forward, full-time temporary workers will be automatically converted to seniority employees at 9 months, and their time spent as a temporary worker will be counted towards their progression. Ending this tier is a huge victory and a big step forward, ending tiers at the big three once and for all.
We also brought another group of workers into our agreement who we were told could never be brought in. After they said for months that it was impossible, Ultium Cells workers will now be under our national agreement. The significance of this cannot be overstated. Right now, the future of our industry is being defined, and employers like GM have used joint ventures to drive a race to the bottom. These jobs at Ultium Cells are dangerous, difficult, and pay low wages. But all that comes to an end in this agreement. Upon ratification, Ultium employees will become GM employees and be covered by the UAW GM National Agreement with a few locally bargained supplements. After ratification, there will be a 6-month window for former Lordstown members who were active at Lordstown Assembly Complex on November 26, 2018, to apply to return to Ultium Cells. Former Lordstown members who transfer will retain their current wages, benefits, and seniority. All new hires will make a minimum of 75% of the maximum wage rate under the UAW GM National Agreement. Any amount above the 75% will be negotiated locally. This means that production workers at Ultium Cells will receive an immediate pay increase of at least $6 to $8 an hour upon ratification. And all employees, including GMCH, CCA, Subsystems, and Ultium Cells, will receive a ratification bonus of $5,000.
Retirement insecurity is one of the greatest economic injustices facing our country and our membership. We went into this round of negotiations committed to making huge strides for current and future retirees, and we succeeded. We have won the first bonus for current retirees in 17 years. Under this agreement, current retirees and surviving spouses will receive 5 payments of $500 annually. For decades, surviving spouses received less than the retirees. This contract not only reestablished our annual bonuses for all retirees, but provided the same amounts for surviving spouses. This was a significant accomplishment, as we have triple the number of UAW retirees at GM versus Ford and Stellantis. For current legacy employees, we won a $5 increase to the life income benefit, which will result in an increase of $1,800 a year to future pensioners. The company will offer 3 special attrition programs, SAPs, from January 2024 through the life of the agreement, a $50,000 lump sum pre-tax retirement incentive for traditional employees who meet the normal or early retirement eligibility requirements. For current in-progression employees, we won a groundbreaking 10% employer contribution with no required employee contribution to their 401k. This benefit is capped at 40 hours because our union is fighting hard to ensure that everyone is provided a pathway to dignified retirement without having to work more than 40 hours a week. Due to the historic wage increases in this contract, in-progression employees will see the annual company contribution to their 401k increase by 73 to 146% over the life of this agreement.
We just showed everyone, from the companies to the public to even ourselves, the real power of a strike. When we take action and hit these companies where it hurts, suddenly the impossible becomes possible. That's why winning the right to strike over plant closures, outsourcing, and product and investment was one of our top goals in this round of negotiations. We made history in winning this demand across the Big Three, but it matters in particular at General Motors because over the last 20 years, GM has closed nearly twice the number of plants as Ford and Stellantis combined. GM's product commitments are no longer just on paper. Now they're backed up by the power of the strike threat. That's the strongest tool we have to protect our jobs, our families, and our communities. And GM knows we won't hesitate to strike if we need to.
Our union made historic gains in this round of negotiations because of the tenacity and unity of our national negotiators, as well as the courage and discipline of our UAW members. The threat of the stand-up strike empowered our union to make gains in national negotiations. That is why Sean and I wholeheartedly support sending this tentative agreement to the membership for a vote. You are the highest authority in our union, and you will decide what happens next.
See for yourself. To read the highlighter in the White Book, head to uaw.org/GM2023. Sit down and read it. Talk to your coworkers. Talk to your family. And let's move forward together. Before we close out, I want to comment on some of the noise being made by analysts and pundits on the impact that our strike and the historic contracts we won will have on car prices. I want to be clear. Car prices are way up, but it's not because of worker wages, low inventory, or anything but corporate greed. In the past 4 years, the average price of a new car is up by 30% and more. The profits from those higher prices was not passed on to the workers who made those vehicles. Instead, it went straight into the pockets of the shareholders and corporate executives. Our strike and this contract are correcting for decades of these companies getting rich off of our labor. But the big three and the corporate media don't want workers to see how much power they have. They don't want the public to support us in the fight against corporate greed. So they are using our contract as an excuse to raise prices, and then they're scapegoating our union in the process. It's a win-win strategy for the auto companies. They can continue price gouging consumers while demonizing the union for having the courage to demand a fair share. Once again, the big three want to divide and conquer, pit the auto worker against the consumer, against the taxpayer. The thing is, the vast majority of us are all one group, the working class. We make the cars, we buy the cars, we pay the taxes, and we aren't falling for it. And together, we're going to fight to change the economy into one that works for the working class. This contract is our union's first step in that direction, and I'm proud to bring it to the membership for a vote. In solidarity with this committee,